How many ideas have people thought of throughout human history? How many events have taken place over the course of the Earth's lifespan? The number really has to be unlimited. From telescopes to breakups, everything from the Spanish Inquisition to the death of Superman. There have to be millions. How intimidating is it to a student who's trying to learn all of this stuff that's ever happened on the planet Earth and all the things that matter? That's got to be an impossible task. But what if instead of trying to learn every single idea or event, we focused on the skill of recognizing how those ideas and events are connected together? Think of it like this. You are putting puzzle pieces together, and you can look at the box and focus on a very specific piece and try to figure out where that piece goes, but really that's not a very good way to complete a puzzle. Rather, the only way to place a puzzle piece on the table is to put that piece in relationship to other pieces via the connection that those pieces share on the edge. That connection might be pointy, sometimes it's rounded, sometimes there's even an edge piece. But it's the snapping together of individual puzzle pieces into a larger connected network that makes the puzzle come together. When it comes to fitting puzzle pieces together, there are really only a few ways that pieces can attach to one another if you really think about it. Likewise, when it comes to concepts means events or ideas in this case. When it comes to these concepts, there are really only 5 interesting ways of linking them together. These 5 relationships of one concept to another are known as the content imperatives. And they were originally named by USC education researcher Dr. Sandra Kaplan. Got to give credit where credit is due. These 5 content imperatives include 1. Parallel, 2. Paradox, 3. Origin, 4. Contribution, and 5. Convergence. Let's start by discussing parallel. Concepts are parallel when they are similar to one another and can be compared. For instance, how are these concepts parallel? Marvel and DC, the American Revolutionary War and the French Revolutionary War, the World Cup and the Olympics, burritos and hamburgers.
The burrito is awesome and is so good to eat. The burrito is filled with good things to eat. Da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da. Burritos are yummy and burgers are gross. Da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da. Burritos are yummy and burgers are gross.
Buns, ketchup, pickle, cheese, put that patty in between his burger. What is burger? What? Buns, ketchup, pickle, cheese, put that patty in between his burger. What is burger? Oh!
Practice with sets of 3. For instance, Lady Gaga, Michelle Obama, and Queen Elizabeth. Gandalf, Harry Potter, and Doctor Strange. A sound, a shadow, a memory. Define the content imperative of parallel and come up with 3 new examples of your own of parallel concepts. Number 2, paradox. Concepts are in paradox when they move in opposite directions from one another. There's a contradictory element in the way that these concepts connect. How are these concepts paradoxical? Night and day, sleep and awake, love and hate, friend and enemy, child and adult. You may notice that you can't really have more than 2 concepts be simultaneously paradoxical, because then you have 3 directions, which means that none of them are really opposite. Define the idea of paradox and spend a few minutes thinking of several more sets of paradoxical concepts on your own. Origin. Concepts that share an origin all come from the same place. For instance, identify the origin of Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four, and the X-Men. What is the origin of myself, my brother, and my sister? In what ways do hip-hop, breakdancing, and graffiti, although Grandmaster Flash would disagree with graffiti, in what ways do they share a common origin? Or consider working the other way. What is the origin of martial arts? How did the Roman pantheon originate? What is responsible for the perfectly hexagonal shape on the planet Saturn? Define the concept imperative, origin. Next, lump together several concepts that share a common origin. Then ask about the origin of something that you're interested in. Contribution. The significant part or consequence of a concept is contribution. So contribution moves in a straight line as a series of additive causes and effects. For example, in the nursery rhyme, The House That Jack Built, and the book, Golly Gump Swallowed a Fly, these are both excellent examples of contribution because one thing adds to another thing, adds to another thing, adds to the final result. Let's look closer at Golly Gump Swallowed a Fly. Once upon a time, there's a farmer named Golly Gump. He swallows a fly. So what is he to do? Well, of course, he has to swallow a spider to eat the fly. But now he's got a spider in his tummy. So he's got to swallow a bird to catch the spider. We can't have a bird in your tummy, so he then swallows a cat and then a dog, and then he swallows a full-on dog catcher. I'm not kidding. The story takes a turn. Contribution is like addition. Pieces continue to be added together sequentially, one after the other. Trace the path through which the art of one time period contributed to that of a much later time period. Or ask yourself, to what extent did the X-Men contribute to the success of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Or what factors are key in contributing to a winning sports team? What dynamics contribute to a vehicle's top speed? Define the term contribution and find out what factors contributed to the existence of several events or ideas. Ask about the contribution of other concepts. The last idea, number 5, is convergence. Convergence asks about the intersection of disparate concepts. Whereas contribution is about adding things together, convergence is about that point or foci of collision where several ideas that didn't seem to be related come together. For example, how do modern politics, comedians, and social media converge on the issue of race in America today? How do the different plot lines of Spider-Man, the Avengers, and the Guardians of the Galaxy converge in the Infinity War? When do ASB, wrestling, haka, and step team converge on campus at a high school? What kind of viewpoints on environmental conservatism converge at a G8 summit? What do Star Wars, The Wizard of Oz, and Captain Underpants all teach us about the value of friendship? Define the term convergence. Then make at least 3 lists of concepts that converge in an interesting space. Congratulations, you have received an introduction to all 5 of the content imperatives. Now let's try to imagine all the different ways that these connections might fit one single concept. So we're going to practice with the concept of Halloween. What cultures have celebrations that parallel Halloween? Examine the paradox of safety and fear in Halloween. What are the origins of Halloween? What has contributed to the popularity of Halloween? What factors converge to cause Halloween to be either amazing or really lame? Finally, pick your own concept. It can be anything from My Hero Academia to the Roswell crash to British imperialism. Draft 5 interesting questions like the ones we just did for Halloween, but use the content imperatives on your own, and then after you've got your 5 questions, discuss them with a friend. Reflect on your conversations and compare the depth of those conversations with the results that you would have gotten if you would have just turned to a neighbor and asked, what do you think about Halloween, for instance? Last of all, You might one day be asked to follow a line of argument. This is a somewhat related concept in that there is no actual physical line that exists in the argument, but rather it's an imaginary set of connections leading from one concept to another. Being able to recognize these connections is helpful to a reader, but using the terms quickly to accurately communicate the essence of the connections in the argument is absolutely essential for a writer, especially if they're writing in a short period of time and are on a clock. Bonus points if you learn and use the word juxtaposition. Have a good day.